All right. Hey, everybody. This is going to be my virtual world Swordsoul deck profile. I get asked a lot on Discord about it. So I wanted to give you guys a run through. First things first, why would you even play virtual world Swordsoul is kind of the big question that comes up pretty often. Primarily, it's for consistency reasons. Virtual world is a deck that, as everybody knows at this point, it's kind of even become a meme how much virtual world bricks. Cards like Sword Soul Emergence, some of the other combos and things I might go into later, and some of the Sword Soul cards really help out the consistency of the deck. There is a cost though. You don't get to run as many going second big board breaker cards or hand traps. This version does play 6 hand traps, technically 7, but I'll get into that later. You do still get to run hand traps, so don't think like you only have to run 3 Ash Blossom to play this version. This version I like to call the heavy Sword Soul version. It plays about 6 to 9, depending on the list, Sword Soul cards. I'm going to go into like what I play, but I'm also going to go into kind of some places you can tweak and adjust. Virtual World and even Sword Soul, there's a lot of text you can put in there that really change how your deck plays. So, yeah, the added consistency is the biggest reason. It gives you some different plays. It gives you more negates, and just gives you some kind of stronger, higher ceiling plays. Barone, YuGiOh, even Chang Ying, and some of the associated cards are really good at both breaking boards and generating value. So that kind of adds into the Sword Soul mixture. So I'm going to kind of go over by card. And at the end, I'll explain some of the combos that where these two archetypes actually have a lot of synergy that people don't realize. So we'll start off with the Sword Soul cards. Big one is 3 Sword Soul Emergence. This is the Rhoda of the archetype, so it actually adds any Sword Soul card from monster from your deck to your hand. But if you control a synchro monster, any synchro monster, you can add any worm. Notably, Gigi and Lily from the virtual cards are worms. So is Tutu. So you can add, if you already have other virtual world plays or Sword Soul plays and you want to use this emergence, this is another way to get more virtual world names in your deck. This also can function as a 1 card kind of combo to get a virtual world name, and I'll go into that. There's about 3 ways that this can function as a virtual world name. The first, of course, is just play it when you control a synchro monster. As far as the actual search targets, we have Longyuan, Moye, and Taya. Taya and Moye are level 4s. Moye is obviously the highest value one, but she requires you have a worm monster in hand. So she isn't always going to be relevant. Taya, he's kind of, in most Sword Soul decks, you play 2 copies of him. He's kind of the best one here in most cases, because he helps you function with your virtual plays just a little bit better. All of these have an effect to summon the level 4 token, which is a level 4 tuner worm monster. So you can use that to your advantage. You can not just synchro this and a token together. You can use your virtual cards with this. So this deck actually has a lot better access to Yazi and directly into level 10s from these than you think. There might be some positions where to play around Nibiru, you want to use this and say a Lala or the token and a Lili to make Barone early, so you won't get blown up by Nibiru. Longyon, he requires you to pitch 1. Kind of the weakest one, but he is 1 card that can get you straight into Barone, get you those level 10s really fast. So I would play 1 of each if you're playing the heavy Sword Soul version. If you don't like running so many Sword Soul cards, you really can just play 3 Emergence and 1 Taya. I'll go into those combos and why you might do that. And lastly, I play 2 Incredible Ecclesia. This is just more names. This is really good going second. Doesn't take up our normal summon. You can special summon her if your opponent controls monsters and you don't. She can tribute herself as a quick effect. Really nice considering it as with Gamma. If they try to Ash this, which is actually a fairly decent Ash choke point in the normal Sword Soul deck, so they might try to do that. You can Gamma and get your Gamma and your Driver on the field, because if this is your first monster you're going for, you won't control any monsters while this effect is on the chain. So that's really good. These are just function as extra names. These can be sided out going first if you want less names, things like that. You can run 1, you can run 2. This deck type was kind of popularized by Herman Hansen, kind of a pro player of a little bit of notoriety. He played 1 and I believe there was double Yongwan, but you don't have to play these exact numbers. This is just what I play. So it's about you have 6, 7, 8 total Swordsoul cards. You can play 9. I'd probably play a second Moye just because it's kind of the best one to actually see in your hand, and for follow-up just because it draws you a card whenever it's synchroed off. The virtual world part, everybody kind of knows at this point. There's some slight differences. The ratios are pretty solid, but there's some differences here for the Swordsoul version. 3 Telly. This card's at 3 now. This is definitely a virtual world card. It's worth playing. You can play a Ghost Ogre if you want. I don't currently. It's really good against Brave Token, so you might want to play one, but card's just incredible. Doesn't use your normal summon. For the normal summon slash non-hand effect virtual worlds, I actually play 1 Nian, 1 2/2. You don't play 2 Nian like most lists do. 1, because you don't play Desires. 2, because it's a psychic. You want to see a little bit more of your worm monsters in this version because your Swordsoul cards care about worms. You want to see them in your hand and in your graveyard. Notably, you play 2/2 for whenever you synchro off Taya, it can send any worm monster. So you can send this to your graveyard as a way to set up your virtual world plays without having to use a normal summon after the fact. It's really good. Good grindy card. Just good to have this in your graveyard. You can pitch any worm or any psychic. So Gamma, Driver, any virtual world monster, any Swordsoul monster. Bring this back. Of course, we play 3 of the best virtual world monster. Lulu, Gigi, Worm. Lily, also a worm. We play 2 Roshi. This card is really, really good. Not saying you should cut one because it's a bad card. It's a psychic. It requires, this only foolishes if you don't have a virtual world monster in grave. There are some situations where just seeing this in hand is kind of bricky. We play 2 because we do want to see it in the hand a fair amount of the time, but you don't really want to get this other than, might search it off of your Qinglong if you have the Lulu already, etc. This just doesn't have as much synergy as we would like with the Swordsoul cards. You can play 3. I just choose to run 2 just to fit in some of the other cards to have more Swordsoul monsters. But spells and traps. 3 Qinglong. I've seen some people cut this down to 2. Absolutely do not. You always want 2 in your grave, 1 in your deck. That's just kind of the rule with this card. This card's really incredible, obviously. 3 Kowloon, probably arguably the best non-monster card in the entire deck. 2 Chuche, 1 Zhanwu. All these cards, I wouldn't cut a single one of them. Past the ratios that I already have. And then for hand traps, we play 6, technically 7 slots. 3 Ash, 3 Gamma, and of course the Driver. The reason why this is 7 slots, of course, is because of the Driver. This is a 40-card list. If you want to play more cards, you want to go to 41, pick your poison. Gamma's really good here. Not only going second, it's just an incredible hand trap going second, but past that, we have a lot of cards going first that are Ash bait. Normally, Gamma's kind of subpar because people, if they're good, they'll wait for you to play the Lulu or play a second monster or have a monster on the field so they can play around Gamma. We have a lot of cards. We have 3 Italy, 3 Kowloon, and then the 3 Emergence. Oh, it's time. 3 Emergence and 2 Ecclesia that all work with this Gamma. So that's kind of, something like Ecclesia, Emergence, even E-Telly. I mean, some people might ash them based on what they're assuming the contents of your hand is. So, obviously, most good players won't ash E-Telly, but these are all cards that work with that Gamma play. We are sending 2/2 a lot because you usually go through the Taya. So these are not always dead in your hand. This can be a level 6 virtual world monster, make no mistake. So I think it's very good in this version. I probably wouldn't cut Gamma for anything. You can cut some Swordsoul monsters, play more hand traps. I'll definitely go into that version. So let's get in the extra deck here really fast. I'm going to go over the Swordsoul cards that I think you need to play, and then we can go over maybe some other options you want to play. Obviously, Baron is one of the biggest reasons why we'd even want to touch a Swordsoul package or any non-virtual world monster in our deck. Yeah, just incredible. It's a pop. It's Omni Negate. It even can get you into Scythe lines. Not that I play Scythe, but that's just something that some people do. I think it's kind of subpar, but you can. YuGiOh. This searches and is a pseudo like effect veiler sort of thing on the field. This can search you in emergence not only to get another Swordsoul monster if you want to, but you can also just use this to add to your virtual world plays. Like say maybe you have a Kowloon and a Lulu, and it'd be great if you could get a emergence to get a Lily, a GG, whatever you'd like, just to get that extra name in hand. You know, the 2 name hands versus the 3 name hands are a big difference in power level. Boxia. Boxia is just incredible. This card functions as a GG on the field. Say your hand is basically all bricks, but you have a Lulu and you have an emergence. You can go straight into this off the Taya. So you go emergence for Taya, banish to get the token, make synchro to this. If your opponent has any cards, you can of course shuffle up to 2 because you're using a wind and a water. This shuffles up the attributes used for its synchro summon. Even if you're going first, you don't have to shuffle. This can pop itself. Off the Taya, you send a GG. This can pop itself to bring the GG back in defense. So that's a really long-winded and weird way, but in those really bricky hands, you can do that. Also with Taya, you can just make Shen Shen. Emergence has an effect whenever it's banished, you can modulate either up or down 1 a worm monster you control. You can use that not only to make Yazi, which is level 7, but you can also raise the level to go straight into Shen Shen. You don't always want to go straight into Shen Shen, just simply based on you don't want all your other cards that you're playing and synchroing off to be banished. You want them in the graveyard either for follow-up or just for some extra names. And of course, Yazi. Yazi's 1000% mandatory in this version. You make this card more often than even Swordsoul does. Mainly based off of a lot of people want to imperm, veiler, do all sorts of things to your Moye or your Taya whenever you summon it. Using E-Telly or even just a Lulu, you can go into this, pop one of their cards, and this gets any worm monster from your deck. Notably, this can't be targeted, so it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to stop this effect. But you can either get a Lily or a GG on your field if you want some more virtual world plays, or you can get the opposite. Say you used a Moye in this to make it. You can go and get the Taya and activate the Taya's effect. Or if you used a Taya to make this, you can go and get the Moye, get the Moye's effect. Just a lot of value. Punishes people for going for the Imperm effect Veiler, which is generally pretty good against Swordsoul. We have a lot of ways between Emergency Teleport and Lulu, and even making a Tuner or Nian to make this card. So really good. You can play, this is kind of a flex slot, so I'm going to put this card face down. You can really play whatever you want in this slot. Some people play the Changying, which is the other level 10 Swordsoul card. It's good. It hasn't come up a lot in my testing, so I don't personally play it. You can really play whatever you want in this slot, and whether you like Final Sigma, whatever other Virtual World card. And then we kind of got our core Virtual World cards, of course. I wouldn't cut any of these. Coral Dragon, Stardust Charge Warrior, and Juju. Obviously, really, really necessary for Virtual World plays. Coral Dragon, I've seen a lot of people cutting this in their Virtual World Swordsoul. I personally really wouldn't. You can use this with the Swordsoul monster that's been impermed, or even one that has successfully made a token, to go straight into Barone off of your Virtual World cards. It's just important to have that flexibility, either having your level 6 Synchro be a non-tuner or a tuner, respectively. And Juju, make this in defense against Invoke Dogmatica Shadal and see how that goes for them. It's just a really good card. It's also a Virtual World name. Sometimes you need it for some of those lines. For level 9s, I play Vermilion and Shen Shen. Obviously, Shen Shen, boss monster of our deck, really good against a huge majority of the field, keeps coming back. You don't need me to explain that. Vermilion Dragon Mech. This has some application with, one, just being a good card. This going second, it pops a lot of stuff. You can pop any card on the field, so you can pop back row, things like that. Also, there is a line that a lot of people know about. That if your hand is exactly Lili King Long, this makes that hand not a brick. So yeah, I think for a variety of reasons, I wouldn't cut this card. I've seen some Virtual World Swordsoul do that. Of course, we play Zulk and Crystal Wing. I've seen some people trying to cut this too, but we need something to do when we draw those all Virtual World hands. We're not going to count on drawing Swordsoul cards. We do have a lot of them. In my build, I have 8. But still, I mean, we need a negate that we can make. Crystal Wing's really good. It actually sufficiently OTKs pretty well as well, going second, and is also just a monster negate that gets bigger. I mean, this is just a good card. Don't cut it. For the Exceeds, I play Fan, Ptolemy, and Zeus. Some people cut Ptolemy. I think Ptolemy's good. He's really flexible. Definitely wouldn't cut Fan. These are kind of, you know, as with all the cards in the Virtual World extra deck, they're fairly flexible. I've even toyed with cutting Zeus. Zeus is a really good card. It keeps coming up. You don't make it a whole lot in this build, but it's good to have the option to go into it. Fan's really good because it banishes. You can banish a DP from their graveyard and a card on their field. This can bounce, funnily enough, their DP from their grave back to their extra. If you really need to do that and get in and have a Zeus, you can. And the problem with Fan is it attaches 2 materials. This also, it can add back hand traps. It doesn't come up that often. It's usually not that good. Especially because we only play 3 Ash that can really be bought back. But still, really flexible. It can add Virtual World names back for follow-up. Just something to make. Alright, so that's it for the deck. I do want to showcase the different ways that we can use Swordsoul Emergence to Virtual World's benefit. I mean, the whole point of running a different package would be that we want to enhance our deck in some sort of functional way that actually helps out our game plan and doesn't hinder it. So I want to show, I mean, for this example, I'm going to use a pretty bricky hand. So people, I mean, the big question I like to ask people is, what are you playing over this? Most people are going to say hand traps, board breakers, things like that. That's a really good thing. But some people play Foolish Burial Goods instead of this card. So in this instance, Foolish Burial Goods, it's going to unbrick this hand a little bit. We're going to be able to get King Long, maybe we'll add a Nian, we'll normal summon it, whatever. But if this is a hand trap, this hand's a hard brick. So instead, we can use this to functionally be a Virtual World name. Now, in this case, we drew Lulu, so we're not going to be able to get Moye to make a Swordsoul monster, get the YuGiOh, draw a card. We can't do any of that. But we can activate Emergence. And that's going to add us our Taya. This is why I say Taya is kind of the best one, because it can function off of just drawing the Emergence. We're going to normal our Taya. Now, of course, if they imperm the Taya with a hand this bad, you are going to get got. That's just how it goes. But in this case, maybe we want to make our token. So we'll banish as an ignition effect. And we're going to make our level 4 token. This can trigger here if you want. If you want to go straight into Shen, you can. I don't like to with this, just because you're going to have a lot of cards in your banish pile that you're going to want in your graveyard. But we can synchro straight into our Boxia. Now on Boxia's summon, there's going to be 2 things going to try to be added to the chain. You can chain block this. If you don't have anything to shuffle, I don't believe you can activate this. So we're going to activate Taya. And in this case, we're going to send a GG. Send our GG. Now, after Boxia's effect resolves, we might shuffle in here. We did notably use a wind and a water, so we could shuffle up to 2 cards our opponent controls, and this might be really good going second. So we might do that as part of our combo here. And then we can use Boxia's effect to pop itself to bring GG back in defense. Cool. We have Virtual World name on field. and we can Lulu, and we go off as per normal virtual world combos. Alternatively, we could modulate the level, and this Boxia could be our Shenshen. If you want to go that route, that's fine. The other one is kind of an average hand. Say we have Moye, a Lulu, and a 2/2. 2 Ash Blossoms in our hands as our quote-unquote bricks. Now this hand's pretty unplayable. If we go for virtual world stuff here, we go normal summon 2/2. We can't get this Moye out, but there is a way that we can make this happen. All right. So we go normal Moye. We're going to reveal our 2/2. That's going to make us a token. Now we can synchro these. And we can do the same backseal line if we want. This would be if we want to go more into the virtual world plays. And if we don't, we can do this to get the GG just like I showed in the last combo. And then you'd have a way to Lulu and then go for the King Long, dump your 2/2, that kind of stuff. If you want to go for the hard virtual world stuff. If you want to focus a little bit more on maybe doing some Swordsoul stuff, kind of make the normal going for Swordsoul board minus the blackout, you can synchro for the YuGiOh. I like to draw and then search, so I would probably like this to be Chain Link 2 and this to be Chain Link 1. So we will draw a random card. Let's just assume in this case that doesn't improve our hand. Maybe we drew a third Ash Blossom, maybe a Jianwu, something really garbage. And then we will draw, then we will search off a YuGiOh. You can go straight into the Long Yawn if you want. Or if you want another Swordsoul name, you can kind of go for the Emergence. You know, if they Ash that, it's going to kind of stop your line. So we're just going to go normally straight into the Long Yawn. And then we can activate pitching our 2/2. Make it the token. And we can make a Baron here. We could, if we really, really wanted to. Maybe we drew something decent here instead of a brick. We could use the card that we drew. Maybe we drew a Gamma, right? We might pitch it for 2/2, and then we can do our virtual world lines if we wanted to. So there's a lot of flexibility to this build. There's a lot of things you can do. There are going to be some times where you're going to play pretty similarly to the Swordsoul deck, and there are going to be some times where you play very similarly to the normal virtual world deck. It gives you a little bit of flexibility, and some of the combos that I showed you guys have a little bit of overlap. That is by no means the depth of it. There is a little bit more. One of the versions that I really like, and if you want to run more hand traps, I would run. You can just run three Emergence. And just the one Taya. You can. It's totally fine. This is going to function as more virtual world names. So say you have 2 virtual worlds already. You can do your normal virtual world stuff. You get your Stardust Charge or whatever on the field. And you can Emergence for the GG or the Lily you're missing. Just go a little bit further. That's cool. You can also do kind of a neat thing where, say you already have a good virtual world combo and you want to add Baron into the mix. So you can Emergence for your Taya, normal it into your existing board. You can banish this, make your token. And you can do a neat thing here. So depending on if you have Lily or Lao, you can change the level off of the Emergence being banished of one of these two to be lower. So say if I want to make Baron and I have Lily but no Lao, I don't want the tuner to be level 4. So let's make Taya level 3. And if I had Lao Lao, I'd want Tai to be level 4 and the tuner to be level 3. The reason why we modulate the level of the second one is because in this build, we would only run Boxia and Baron de Fleur in our extra deck just to give us a little bit of consistency. I would take a normal virtual world list and I would take out where maybe the Kaliga Mud Dragon package is and put those cards in, just to give you a little bit of added consistency. With losing Desires, there's definitely a little bit more of an argument for this. I wouldn't necessarily call it Virtual World Swordsoul. You really are only playing the one Swordsoul card. This card functions as a virtual name well over half the time. So it's pretty close to pure in that instance. But the reason why we changed the level of these is because we can use the level 3 one to do normal virtual world stuff. Maybe we make a Stardust Charge Warrior. Maybe we make a Coral Dragon. Maybe we make our Shinshin off of it. So there's a huge variety of things we can do with this package. This is kind of just the beginning of it. I will be creating a guide for some of these combos if you do need to go back. I know this video is going to be a little bit long, so that'll give you better access to that. But thank you guys for watching, and appreciate it.